Hi, my name is Jean Shum, and I'm excited to welcome you to Operation Parent. Operation Parent is a nonprofit organization that I started several years ago. Our mission is to provide ongoing education, support, and hope to those raising teens and preteens in today's culture. Several years ago, I was in the thick of raising my own 5 teens and preteens. I was overwhelmed and I was naive. And what I've learned over the past 8 years is that the issues we address, and they're tough issues like alcohol and drugs, cell phones and social media, dating and violence, these issues need to be addressed by parents as early as possible. Unfortunately, what we're finding out is that our kids are getting caught up in the culture much earlier than parents are prepared to face. So grab a cup of coffee, put your feet up, and let us take it from here. We're thrilled that you're becoming a parent who's aware and informed and will have the tools you need to protect your child.
Hi, my name is Mary Beth Huberti and I'm with Operation Parent. Today we're going to be talking about parenting social media. For a lot of parents, they don't know how to parent it. They don't understand the apps, they don't understand their kids' attraction to it, but also they just don't understand what to do. How do we get through all this? Well, as a parent of 2 teens myself, I'm right in the thick of it with you. I have a background in computers, worked with IBM for a number of years, and taught a lot of adult education. I do a lot of community presentations, and for a lot of the parents, this is one of the most popular ones that we do. So we're going to talk about today are what are social media networks? What are the social networks that the kids are using? How do you teach them safety? What are the issues? How about responsibility? How do you teach them to use it responsibly so when they're older and they leave your home, they're going to do a great job of monitoring themselves, because that's what you want. How about the content that they post? What do you say to them about the content? How do you find the content? But then we're going to look at some of the most popular social media sites. What are some of the risks? How are they using it? What are some of the things you need to teach them and check on a regular basis as you're parenting the social media apps? So then we're going to end it with a checklist, some 5 simple things you can do today to get started on that road.
Once I started learning a little bit, it was scary to know that suddenly they have 1,000 friends and you hardly know anybody, and who are all these people, and what kind of personal information might they give out. And it's very difficult trying to learn to navigate the social media and keep up with it. It just seems like every time it's just changing all the time.
The main things I would take away from the social media seminar are use your resources. They're out there. You can Google almost any question you have. Go to the App Store, look what's available. There were several, one particularly about driving and texting that I'll be looking into very soon. Other takeaway message is talk with your kids. Make them a part of it, of using it, of the consequences. And one thing that you really instilled in our group, Mary Beth, was don't be afraid to be the authority figure. You are the parent, you're not their friend. There'll be a time for that, but we set the ground rules, and then we need to expect the kids to.
For a lot of parents, they wonder, when should I start talking to my kids about social media or the internet? Something to keep in mind is the average age when a child begins to use online media regularly is 8 years old. When they're in school, they're going to sign on to subjects and go onto the internet because they need to do research. They're going to join things such as Webkins or Club Penguin, and they really are social network sites. So are you Looking at an 8-year-old thinking it's too young to start talking about this and parenting this? No, it's a perfect age to start. 8 million users of Facebook are under the age of 10. 8 million. So we'll talk about later is, what is the average age? What is the starting age for Facebook? And for most parents, they know it's 13, but there's 8 million that are on there. Something else to keep in mind is 72% of parents surveyed worry that their kids reveal too much information online. But only 50% of them actually install any parental controls at all. So there's a lot of room for improvement for talking to kids, and they want you to talk. So what are social networks? If you think about it, when you were a teen or when you were a kid, you probably hung out at places as parks, the mall, maybe a skating rink, just on your corner of your street or at a park. For them, it's a little bit different. Are they doing those things? Sure they are. But they're also hanging out online with friends, whether they're friends that they meet from school, from activities, but they can be friends that they meet from around the world. But they're hanging out together. They can share photos, videos, share interest and hobbies, write small chapters to books, share poetry, write songs, post creative videos. They're doing this with people that they find that have similar interests. And they can learn from each other and figure out, oh, well, that was a good thing to do, or that wasn't so good. It is an extension of the kids' lives and a place for self-expression. The major thing for them, though, it is their communication hub. This is where they make their plans. I mean, how many people actually have landlines still? And if you do, does the phone ever really ring for your kids? Because for a lot of families, it doesn't. You know, the party invitations don't come in the mail anymore. Your child, once they get into 4th, 5th grade, aren't handing you invitations to those parties. They're getting the information from different sites. They're talking to their friends either via text or Facebook, Twitter, or Snapchat, and they're making their plans that way. So it's really important that you start talking to your kids about these sites and how you want them to use it. So we're going to start with safety. And this is the primary concern for a lot of parents is, I don't know what's going on and are they being safe? So what are some of the things that you as a parent need to talk to your kids about? First and foremost, password sharing. If you think about it, when they are in 1st, 2nd grade, they probably have asked you, can I sign on to Webkinz? Can I sign on to Club Penguin? And I'm going to get on a social media site. You may not realize it, but that's what it is. They're able to chat with other kids, to interact, play games, collect things, and create different things. But it's monitored. Social media sites, as they get older, some are monitored, some are not. But the biggest thing is, for a lot of kids at the younger ages, they'll share their passwords. Why? Well, maybe you're just going on vacation and they're doing really great in this one site and they don't want to lose the points that they have or the level they have, and they may ask a friend to sign on as me and allow that friend to continue to do the stuff that they want them to do to continue with the game. But then that also leads to them moving into 4th, 5th, or maybe middle school, and they don't realize that password sharing is not such a good idea. Think about it, middle school. A lot of middle school drama occurs then. Kids get into fights. Best friend one day, not so much a best friend the next day. If a friend has somebody's password, they have 2 choices. They can rip it up, or they can hold on to it. And if they're very angry, impulsive, they can choose to use that password to sign on as them. Maybe post things that are inappropriate to get them in trouble, or to post things to friends to make it sound like your child said something that they didn't. Or they could just get onto the site with that password and change the password and lock your child out. So it's really important, parents, talk to your kids about password sharing. The only person that should have their passwords are you, the parents. And for a lot of kids, they're like, why? Why should my parents have my passwords? It's really a good thing to find out. Number one, it's a safety issue. As your kids get older, they might get involved with the wrong crowd. They might make some very bad decisions or impulsive decisions where they decide to take off. Or maybe they're getting involved into drugs and alcohol and you're worried. A lot of the information that would lead you there will be found on these social media sites. You've got to have their passwords. Does that mean when they're 18 you're checking up on everything? No. It means when they're younger, you are having their passwords so you can sit with them and check and make sure that what they're posting is appropriate, and you're teaching them as they go along. So the only person that should have the passwords, your child's passwords, are you. You keep them in a safe place. When they change them, it just becomes part of your contract with them. You gotta let me know you've changed your passwords. Think about it, the passwords on those cell phones, those smartphones. If you don't have the password to get into that smartphone, you can't get in it. So you've got to have those passwords. What other things should they not share? Private information. Don't share your phone number over the internet, your email address, your address. Think about it, I always tell the kids, if somebody wants your phone number, wants your email address, then they should be able to ask you that, and you can share that with them privately. But to post it on Twitter, to post it on Facebook, Instagram, that is not a good choice. It just gives out that information to too many people at once. Here's one of my favorites, posting your location. And it happens every year, and it's just one of those things because neither the parent nor the child is really realizing the implication, but it's sharing your location at that moment. Think about it, you go on vacation, you're having a great time and you're taking photos and your kids are excited and they want to post right away that they're on vacation in Florida. So they do that and they send it to Twitter or they send it to Instagram. They put it on Snapchat and send it out to everybody. But what they are sending out is, number one, where aren't you? You're not home. So you've got to talk to them. You know, you want them to share those photos with their friends. That's great, but wait till you get home. So the next thing to talk about with safety is public versus private profiles. And as we talk about more of these sites, you're going to find that some sites give you the option to have a private profile or to have a public one. But if you're talking a younger child in through middle school and they are just starting with social media, you really need to work on, let's keep them private. Let's really work on who are you talking to. You should know them. You should be able to look at the profile with the child and say, yeah, I know who that person is and I know who that person is. Public versus private profiles, they are issues for a lot of parents because for some of these sites, the kids do want public profiles. We'll talk about that with Twitter. But remember, when you're starting them out with this, and you are looking at your child and thinking, okay, are they following our rules? Are they using good judgment? Are they making good decisions on who they're sharing information with? Are they sharing information that is appropriately? That will clue you in when and if that child should move to a public profile. Friends. Who are they accepting as friends? When they're younger, it should only be people that you know, mom and dad. Parents too, aunts and uncles, cousins. I'm not saying you're going to comment on everything that they post. Don't do that. Give them that share of privacy. But you should be able to see what they're posting. And we'll talk about how do you see some of these posts. Also with safety is what sites are age appropriate. There are a lot of sites where if you actually go on to the App Store and look at what the description is, it'll tell you straight up, meant for 17 and older, because of the links that it has available to stuff that you don't want your child to see. So you really have to start understanding what are these sites, ask them what sites they're interested in, and go into the site, read about them, so you can decide, is this the right age for my child? And inappropriate material, and we'll talk about that with content. The next section we're going to move to is how do you teach responsibility? What are the issues you need to cover to be able to talk to them and have them use their product, their digital device, responsibly? For a lot of families, they're giving a cell phone or a smartphone to a child for Christmas or a birthday, and it's an exciting time. They are thrilled and they can't believe they've actually got the phone. Mom and dad agreed. But for a lot of families, they haven't sat down and thought, okay, what are our rules? What are the things that we need to teach them about having this? A great thing to use are just contracts. We have them on our site at www.operationparent.org. Great contracts on digital devices, and it helps to guide a family to what are our rules, what are our values, what are our beliefs, and it gives a chance to have a really great conversation with your child on what you expect. So what are some of those responsibility issues that you have to cover? First is the use of the digital device itself. I mean, let's face it, the child gets a phone, they want to take it to school. But do you know what the school rules are? Have you talked to the school? For a lot of schools, they are actually encouraging them to bring in the digital device so that they can use them inside the classroom. But sometimes a lot of parents get caught in the principal and the school has one rule, but some of the teachers inside their classroom have other rules. Maybe for the school itself, they're like, yes, we encourage the use of digital device inside the classroom. But maybe inside of a classroom, a teacher's saying, only if I allow it, or only on certain days. So what I tell parents all the time is, you gotta know the rules. You gotta know the school's rules. And if the rule is tighter in that teacher's classroom, that's their rule. And the child has to abide by that rule. Something to keep in mind is if the phone gets taken away, don't rescue them. Let the phone be taken away. If it's gonna be gone for a week or two, that child, that teenager won't let that happen again. So I encourage you, let them suffer the consequences of that. Just let the phone stay there. It'll get picked up when it's supposed to by the parent, and then you just start over again. For a lot of these rules and responsibilities and thoughts that we're trying to express to the kids, they're gonna make mistakes, and they're gonna make them a lot, and that's okay. They'll learn from them, you back up, and you start over again. Another thing to keep in mind as you're coming up with your rules and guidelines for your home, what are the courtesy rules that you like to establish? A lot of parents tell me they are so worried their kids are going to lose the art of conversation or they're going to be on it all the time. Well, parents, you've got to decide what are those rules inside your own home that you expect. Will you be allowed to use your cell phone while you're eating dinner, answering texts, sending texts, taking pictures? How about when they're doing homework? Where's that phone going to be? Where's that digital device going to be? It gets a little tricky as they keep using the digital device for homework, but you've got to start talking about those things. Here's something for those teenage parents. They're going to go out on a date. Should they be using their digital device while they're out on their date? Because sometimes you can't help but wonder when you see couples sitting at dinner together and they're both just on their phones and they're not talking to one another. So you've got to talk about that. What are your courtesy rules inside the home? And parents, I can't stress enough, please, please, please model those behaviors. So if you're going to say no cell phones, no digital devices while we eat dinner, then everybody has to follow the rule. Keep in mind, this also extends to inside the car. Are you texting and driving? Are you answering your phone while you're driving? Because you have to remember, they're sitting in the back seat and they're watching you. And they will watch you and learn from you more than sometimes they'll even hear what you're saying to them. So please keep that in mind. What is the courtesy rule while they're driving? What is going to be your rule for your family while they're driving? Other things to keep in mind is what time should those devices go on in the morning? How about what time should they go off at night? Are they on while they're doing homework, or can they only be turned on after homework is done? Those are things you got to talk to them about and really encourage them to be part of the conversation. These contracts can be very helpful in encouraging them to be part of the conversation. Sometimes you're just going to negotiate the end time for something. Maybe it's on the weekend. You might say the phone has to be shut off at 10 and they're going to come back with, how about midnight? Maybe you'll say, well, how about 11? And there's your agreement. You both agree on 11. Get their input. Get their input also for what happens if they break one of your rules. Will they lose the phone? Keep in mind that for a lot of them, the phone is the lifeline to their friends. That may not always be the solution nor the possible punishment that really is effective. So you need to talk to them, ask them, encourage them to give other consequences too, and you write that into your contract. Also, what happens if that phone gets stolen, dropped and broken, damaged in any way? Who's going to be responsible for the bill? Is it going to be the parent or is it going to be the child? Keep that in mind. How about that phone bill? For many families, when the cell phones started really becoming popular and texting was on the rise, they had plans for maybe 250 texts at a time. Keep in mind that the average 16-year-old sends and receives in a month at least 3,000 texts. So if you do have one of those plans where there's a limit on send, receive, text, you may find out that you're going to have a big phone bill on the other end. So you have to explain that to the child, you have to work with them, and you have to keep track and help them learn how to keep track. But these are all part of the responsibilities that you'll teach them so that they can use this device responsibly. Content, the forever rule. For a lot of families, that is a big fear. They're putting things out there that aren't going to be there forever. And it's a hard concept for any child, teenager to grasp. Forever is forever. For an adult, we get that. But for a child in middle school, forever would be like next week. And that isn't long for them. That is forever. For us, it's horribly short. They don't see forever. And for some of this stuff that you're going to cover with your children, you're going to do it over and over and over, and that's okay. And they're going to make mistakes about this forever rule. But you do have to explain it to them. Because, as I say to a lot of the kids, think of it this way. They put something out on the internet, whether it's a text, a picture, a comment on a site, and that big old machine in the sky is just making a pass and collecting it. Maybe they decide after a day, oh, I don't want that up there, and they pull it off, they delete it. But if that big old machine in the sky has already taken that pass, it's out there someplace. Could you find it? Could the child find it? Maybe, maybe not. But for a lot of employers, for colleges, they know how to find this stuff. And that's where the forever rule comes into play. If you've got a teenager getting ready to apply to college, this is huge to explain to them. And they should learn how to Google themselves and use Google Images to find what is out on the internet about them, because it will play into their future. Colleges will look and see, do I want this child or this teenager on my campus? Are they posting photos of them drinking, using drugs, maybe sexting? Do we want that on our campus? Do we want to give that child a scholarship to play on a team or an academic scholarship if that's going to be the issue? And for a lot of kids, the first time they really start hearing this is when somebody gets a scholarship and then they lose it. Right now, there are those situations out there. People put stuff on Twitter. The school sees it and they suspend the student. So you've got to keep that in mind and explain that to them. Same thing with applying for a job. You don't want them coming out of high school or coming out of college and finding out they can't get a job, because these companies are Googling them. They have people that work in departments in HR, and that's their job, is for every application that comes in, they want to see what's out there, because they can get a different picture of that person. And what you want to teach them is the picture you show and the profile you create online is you, is your real person. That there aren't any photos out there that they're going to be ashamed of or embarrassed by. But parents, you're going to have to work on this with them, and it's a constant work. It's not something that you say once and walk away from. They will make those mistakes, and you want to become their safe person. And this is huge for anybody. If your child does make a mistake, whether it's with responsibility, safety, or what their content is, or maybe it's something that gets sent to them, they need to know that they can go to somebody and tell them, that trusted adult. And hopefully it's you as the parent or the caregiver, that they will come to you, but they will come to someone and say, hey, I need help here, or I made this mistake. And parents, it's so hard not to freak out right then, not to get upset, yell, want to take everything away and say, forget it. But parents, they won't come to you if that happens. They're going to realize if I have this content sent to me and I didn't do it, but I got it, and I don't know how to get rid of it, and I don't know what to do, but if I tell my mother, my father, my grandparent, whoever it is, that's a trusted adult, and they're going to take away my phone or they're going to shut down all my social media, I'm not going to tell you. I'll just deal with it on my own and hope maybe it just goes away. So with any of this that you're talking to your kids, please stress to them, you are their safe person. You're not going to freak out. You're going to maybe sit there and think, oh no, I can't believe this is happening. I just encourage you to take a deep breath. Maybe tell them, you know what, we're going to need to take a break for an hour because I just got to go out and take a walk. And that's okay. But come back to it. So you gotta talk to them about the forever rule for photos. What kind of photos are they posting? Sexting is a real issue. It occurs with a lot of teenagers. Maybe they're in a relationship and they think they're being funny and they joke around and they send a racy photo. Unfortunately, any teenager that receives that photo, hopefully, number one, will go to the parent or go to the trusted adult and say, I need to deal with this, help me. But for a lot of kids, they're going to forward it on. And then in the state of Kentucky and in a lot of states, there aren't any sexting laws. Any photo of a nude, partially nude, scantily clothed can be considered child pornography. And the person who receives that photo, and if they forward it on and they forward it on and forward it on, they're all part of the sexting chain. And they can be prosecuted under child pornography laws. Because the person whose photo that is, who was in the photo, if they're under the age of 18 or 16, depending on the state, it's child pornography. So parents, please, please, please talk to your kids. Explain to them from here to here, clothes stay on. You don't do that. You don't send it. It's not a joke. And if you're feeling pressured to send something, please tell us, because we'll take care of that issue. It is so important. The other thing to talk to them about is, what is the content that you're putting out there? Is it appropriate? Is it really something that needs to be said? Is it kind? Is it thoughtful? Is it intelligent? Is it inspiring? Is it something that you're going to want me to read? Because sometimes you read some of this and you're thinking, oh no, can't believe they did that. Are you angry? And if you teach them, if they're angry, to walk away. Put down the device, walk away, and take a breath, because you're sending it out for the world to see. And keep in mind, who will see it? Depends if it's a private or if it's public. But something to keep in mind, anybody can screenshot anything on an iPhone, an Android, and they can make it from a private post to a public post. So who will see it? The world. The world can see it. So you really have to work with them. I stress to you, teach them about content, work with them all the time. Sometimes you're going to read it and you're not going to like it, and you just say, hey, time to take that down. Let's talk about it. Why is that a problem? But be their safe person.
But when I started learning more about it, I felt a little bit more comfortable, a little bit scared too, but more comfortable, because at least you know what to look for, what to ask. And looking into some of those resources, talking with other people about the resources like you. The other thing I learned that is very important is talk with my kiddo about it, side by side at the computer. They're actually teaching me, but I'm actually learning different things than they're even teaching me. Sitting there talking about Facebook, talking even about email, text messages, and things like that. So that's been helpful in just learning it together.
Okay, let's start talking about the social media sites that our teens, preteens, and children are using on a daily basis. For a long time, Facebook was the popular site. And as you all know, the teens left Facebook. They maintain that site, but they don't necessarily put their daily post up there, their status updates. There's a couple reasons why that occurred. Number one was a lot of parents got on Facebook and started learning how to use it, and a lot of teens didn't like that. But one of the other phenomena that has started to occur and really drove the teens to get out of Facebook, the parents were commenting on their posts, they were commenting on their photographs. They were saying stuff like, oh, you look so nice there, or boy, those days will fly by and you'll look back on that with great fondness. And the kids were like, oh my gosh, I gotta get out of here. And they migrated to other sites. But they are still going on to Facebook. So who's going on to Facebook? 10-year-olds in large numbers. They're jumping on those sites as their first really foray into social media because the parents are on it. It's familiar to them, they know how to use it. But did you know that the actual age for getting onto Facebook is 13? When you sign on to Facebook, you have to put in your birth date. So keep this in mind, parent. For a lot of these kids that are below the age of 13, they just picked a birth date and made themselves whatever age they wanted. Some kids might be 18, 21, 25, 60. Most aren't picking the age of 13. They're having fun and picking any age. So if they are signing on before the age of 13, what are the risks? When you put the birth date in, what is happening inside of Facebook is it's keeping a clock. And it will come up to that year anniversary of that birth date, and that's how you know it's somebody's birthday. And that's how you know that you should send them a happy birthday greeting. So it ages the profile of the person. So between 13 and 18, if you're signing in using your real birth date between the ages of 13 and 18, your setting that you're allowed to share your information is at friends level. There is a new change where somebody between those age can share a post or a status update public, but the overall setting for the profile is friends. But if they choose an age that is over 18, and this is where the risk comes in, that child can choose to have their entire profile public, and Facebook will allow it to happen. So they could be sharing all their information with the world. You may or may not know that. And at a younger age, they may not understand the implications of sending a profile to public. So parents, I encourage you, if you have a child who's getting ready to be 13 and they're asking for you to get onto Facebook, just say, you know what, the age is 13, but on your 13th birthday, I'll sit with you and we will set up the privacy settings and I'll explain how we're going to use this and how it's going to work, and I'm going to be your friend. And you're going to friend all the other people in our family. We're not going to comment, but I will be keeping a watch out, and maybe every 2 weeks in the beginning, we will take a look and see what you're posting. You've got to have their password. Keep in mind, if there is any privacy settings on any of these sites, the only way you'll be able to see exactly what they are posting is you have to go in as them. But do it with them. And so you can just say, hey, let's check your sites today. Why don't you go ahead and log on in? And let's just see what's going on. How's this working for you? Any problems with anybody being rude, mean, making you feel uncomfortable, asking for things that, you don't want to give? Has anybody friended you or asked to be your friend that you don't know? Or is somebody harassing you? Let's read what you're posting. How about what status updates you're posting? What photos are you posting? You may not appreciate their humor, but they have fun with it. And it's not all bad. None of this stuff by itself is all bad. It's just when it gets out of hand or they go into things that they shouldn't be doing. So work with them on this. So they will post status, photos, they can post videos. And as I mentioned, the only way to see it is to go in as them. The next popular site for a lot of the kids is Instagram. So what is Instagram? It's a place to share photos, short videos, and network with their friends. Again, this is a social network, even though it's just photos and videos. It is a social network. 13 years old is the actual age to join. There are a lot of kids under 13 that are on Instagram. It's a great site. I love it. You can filter photos, you can put all kinds of frames, you can do all kinds of things on Instagram. It's a great site. So what's the risk? What's the harm? Okay, well, they can have a private profile or they can have a public profile. If it's private, they have to accept their followers. If it's public, everything they put up is out there. So keep that in mind when they're doing this. If they're asking to go into Instagram for the very first time, sit down with them and say, let's start private. Let's see who you're accepting. Let's see what you like to post, and we'll just move along from there. So what is a risk with Instagram? The biggest one is geotagging. So what is geotagging? Anytime you have a cell phone with a GPS, any smartphone with a GPS, and the user takes a photograph. As soon as they take the photograph, the GPS coordinates of where that photograph was taken is embedded into the digital image. And it stays with the digital image. Why do they do that? Well, it's kind of a great way to file things. If you're using the geotagging, which is what that is called, when you have a GPS coordinates attached, embedded in a digital photo, it's called geotagging. It will put the date it was taken, the time, the location. Pretty neat if you want to be able to pull all the photos from your trip to Florida. You could do that easily by using the geotag feature. The risk is, for a lot of kids, they don't realize that's out there. So they upload their photo to Instagram. They have not turned off the geotagging feature. There is something called photo mapping in Instagram. And what that allows Instagram to do is show a map of where your photos have been taken. Think about it. Not just what city they were taken in, because you know with any kind of GPS map, you can keep making it larger and larger, and you can see the city, the street. I can go down to the house that photograph was taken. And what you're providing and what they don't realize they're providing is a map to them. So parents, geotagging. It is a great product, it's a very great tool. You can shut off geotagging on any smartphone and not shut off GPS. I know I love my GPS. I use it for mapping, finding restaurants, finding gas stations, getting me from point A to point B. But for me and for our family, and I encourage all of you, is shut it off on children's phones, on any kid's phone, whether they're a child all the way through teenage. And for me personally, I shut off geotagging. It's very simple to do. On most phones, it's a simple process. If you don't know how to geotag, how to shut off geotagging on your phone, Google your phone type and follow the phone type with the words geotag. It'll give you the simple instructions. So shut that off. What if you do have a lot of photographs though on your phone and your kid's saying, wait a minute, I've got all these great photos, don't make me delete them. I want to share them on Instagram and they're good photos. So what do? Great little app called PixelGuard. PixelGuard is wonderful. You just download it from the App Store. It's free. You can open up all your photos from your photo roll in PixelGuard and see if they have geotagging features on there. So if I like my photograph I took from my trip, I would like to post it, but it has the geotagging feature inside of it, so my GPS is in that photo. I can just click with a little button and there it'll wipe out the geotagging feature. Great product. Twitter is really popular right now. When a lot of the teens left Facebook, they jumped on Twitter. So what is Twitter? Twitter is 140 characters of whatever you want to say to the world. It's a great, quick burst of information. You can attach a photo and you can attach short videos. But the profile can be public or private. 13 years old to get on Twitter is what they say, but there's a lot of younger kids out there on it. Something to keep in mind with Twitter with the public versus private profile. As a parent, you need to make that decision. Where are you going to start? If you have a 13-year-old and they would like to get onto Twitter, I encourage you to sign up for Twitter yourself. Understand how it works. Doesn't mean you have to tweet, but it just gives you the ability to follow along with what they are seeing. You have to make the decision, do you want their profile to be public or private? Private means they can post their status updates or their tweets, but they can only post them to people they've accepted as followers. Now the thing with keeping a private Twitter account is no one can comment on their tweet, nor can they retweet their tweet. So, as they get into the teen years, they're probably not going to be real happy that they can't have a public profile. Because they do want people to comment, and they do want their friends to retweet their tweets. So parents, it's going to be a struggle. Talk to your child. Look at your child overall and just say, okay, how well are you doing with following rules? How well are you doing with filtering what comes out of your mouth and typing it on that keyboard? You may want to start with private. Start them off there. How do you know it's a private profile? There will be a little thing, looks like a little lock. That's a private profile. And all the tweets would have that little lock. And that tells anybody who's following them, they can't comment nor can they retweet. So if you choose to go the route of Twitter, get on Twitter. Follow them. Read it occasionally. Maybe you do want to tweet, maybe you don't. But once they become a public profile, make sure you're paying attention to what they are tweeting, because they will, in a matter of months, go from having 10 users to 20, 100, 200 followers, and on it goes. So please, take a look at Twitter, go to twitter.com, read about it. Understand how it works, because in 140 characters, they are having conversations, and they are linking into other products from there. So you need to understand Twitter.
Twitter I found to be relatively easy to find out who they're following or who's following them, and it's tricky sometimes to try and find out how to delete certain things, or I don't like when anyone can follow you and you don't even have to accept whether or not they're following you.
Snapchat. All right, this is a big one. This is very popular. I think most parents have taken notice to the amount of selfies our kids are taking of themselves. You know, it's the new word, selfie. What is that? Take a picture with your smartphone of yourself. Maybe you're in the front ground and your friends are behind you, but they're called selfies. And they're sending them through a neat little app called Snapchat. Snapchat, it's 13 years old, again, to join. It allows the user, the sender, to take a photograph. They can write on the photograph with their finger, or they can type in a note that goes with it, and they can send it out to the people that they friended or they're communicating through Snapchat with. They set the length of time the photograph lives once the receiver opens it up, anywhere from 1 second to 10 seconds. They can send photos or they can send a short video. Again, they set the length of time the photo lives. Once the user on the other end receives the Snapchat, they press and hold down. Here comes the photo. They can read what's written on it or the comment that's with it, and with that, the clock starts. Once, maybe they set it for 7 seconds. Once the 7 seconds arrives, it just disappears. It's a neat little product. It's fun. If your 13-year-old teenager is using it, I encourage you again, download Snapchat, learn how to use it. But you need to talk to them about the other end. There's been a lot of talk about sexting with Snapchat, that's what this was made for. I don't necessarily believe that, but it can be used that way. So parents, this is what you need to know. Again, we go back to that forever rule. Anything that you put out can be kept and it becomes forever. The argument is, well, it's disappearing. Well, it doesn't necessarily disappear. Once the person sends the photo, the receiver might have a few options. One is they can screenshot that photo. As soon as they hold and the photo comes to life and the clock starts, it takes maybe a second and they can screenshot it. So what you need to explain to your children or your teens is this. As soon as you send that photo through Snapchat or any product, any social media site, the end receiver can own it. And I don't care that it can disappear. They still can own it. They can own it by screenshotting it. They can also own it by just taking a picture with another phone of that photo. So there's various ways the receiver can own the photo. And once they own it, they can do whatever they want with it. There is also another app out there, not by Snapchat, but it's called Snap Hack. What this app does is it allows the end user, the person who's receiving Snapchats, to receive all their Snapchats through Snap Hack. Snap Hack then allows them to keep everything. So, would the person who's sending the photo know that? No. They would never know that the receiver has downloaded Snap Hack. There's no way to know that. Maybe they send something that's not the smartest thing, or maybe it's a little risque, or maybe it's complete nudity, and the receiver downloads it through Snap Hack and opens it, they own the photo. So parents, I encourage you, Snapchat by itself doesn't have to be a bad thing. You've got to talk to your children. You've got to talk to your teens. You've got to explain what the risks are. You've got to look at your child and say, all right, how you doing with this stuff? What has been going on in the past? How are they at making decisions? How are they thinking and using their technology wisely? Have you had a lot of issues where impulsive things were said or pictures were taken and shared and so you know this is going to be an issue, but you need to talk with them. And you need to check their phones to see, okay, if they're on Snapchat and you've never talked about this, you need to talk about it, and you need to explain the risk. Another popular app that is used by a lot of our preteens and teens is Kik. Kik is a free texting app. Popularity grew for this one when a lot of the kids had limits on how many texts they could send and receive in a month. This gave them the ability to circumvent that and send text to everybody and not have a clock or a counter on it. And they didn't incur any additional charges. So Kik is a free texting app. Something to keep in mind with Kik, and one thing that a lot of parents don't realize, it is meant for a 17+ crowd. If you go to the App Store, that's what they tell you, 17+. It's meant to facilitate chatting with people from around the world. In Kik, it does ask you, do you want us to match you up with people to chat with? So there's a risk there. Does that mean your child is saying, yes, let me talk to anybody in the world? They might just be using it to talk to a few select friends, and that's what you want. So how do you make Kik work for you and for your child if they want to use it? Number one is create a very unique username for your child. And I do mean unique. Not necessarily their name, maybe it's a combination of words that'll identify them. But you want it to be unique so somebody else in Kik couldn't just type it in and find them. So create a unique username along with a unique password. Again, parents, you have the password. And parents, find out who they're friending on there. Who are they conversing with? You should know them. If it's just a stranger that they've picked up and started talking to, then you block that person and you just say, nope, we're not going there. Another thing that happens that you may have seen and not realized what you were seeing was a lot of times on Instagram, Twitter, even Facebook, you might see the words, kick me at, kick me up at, and then there's a username. What that person is saying is, here is my user ID in Kik. So if they go into Kik and they enter it, now I can converse with that person. I can have a chat. So parents, please talk to your kids and say, you know what? We'll go with this app if you follow these rules, and I'm checking, but we're gonna know who you're talking to on this app. You're not gonna just talk to anybody at random, and you're not posting your Kik username for the world to see. This can be used safely if we follow these rules. If that is a problem and things aren't going well, then you may decide, you know what, we're not gonna go that route right now. We're not using Kik. You also have the option at the Kik site, at their website, to go to their parent guide, and they will give you more information on how to use this safely. A lot of kids do use it. A lot of parents don't know that it's supposed to be for 17+ because of that chat feature. So parents, take a look at their cell phone. Find out what apps they have downloaded. Do you know what those apps are? And if you don't, Google the app. Just go to their website for the app. Every app, every kind of social media site that's out there has a support section on their website. Read about it. See if they have a parent guide. What are the concerns? How can I help my child use this responsibly, have fun, keep in touch with their friends, but use it, and how do I monitor it? That's what your challenge is. So what are some things you can do to help you get on board quicker? Number one is Google yourself. Google your children. If you have a teenager, I really encourage you to sit down with them and say, you Google yourself, because you should. They need to learn what's out there about them. Don't just Google their name. Don't just have them Google don't just have them Google their name, but Google their user IDs that they have set up in all the various social media sites. Google their phone number. Google their first name, maybe a nickname with their last name. Find out what's out there. You might find newspaper articles. If they're in sports, you'll probably find their times for different events. You might find all kinds of information. You might find some stuff you're not so happy about. But you need to know. And if they're teenagers, they need to know. And also Google images of them. That's where you're going to find the photos that are out there that are tagged to their name. So please, Google them, have them Google themselves. This will help them greatly as they get older and they're getting ready to apply to college or maybe go look for that first job, this will help them. This is when they will start to realize, oh, that's what they mean by forever. Take a look at all the social media sites that they're using, or if they want to go to social media sites and use them. What age is that social media site geared for? And then also, can I make it private? Especially if you have a young teenager just starting out in this and you're just starting the process with them. What are the privacy settings? What do you as a family decide it's going to be? As they get older, you may not be checking every day. You may just be starting to back off because you want them to leave your house after high school and have a handle on it. So you've got to teach this as they go through, because that's where you want to go. It's not all bad, but it does need to be monitored, and you need to talk to them and get them engaged in this. Remember, this is where they find their friends. This is their social life. So to cut it all off and say, no, you're never going to use any of this, it's not healthy. They need to use this. They need to understand it, because in school and in business settings and when they go to college, this is where they need to know how to work. So please help them along. As I mentioned, read the help sections of these sites. And if you're going to set them up on Snapchat, or if you're deciding, you know what, you're going to be able to use Twitter, get on those sites too. Understand how they work. Get your own profile. Get familiar with it so you can say, how does that work? And parents, honestly, they do know more than you do with these things. That's the reality, and it's okay. So if you say, you know what, I cannot get the hang of Twitter, and I don't understand what that means in Twitter, or this means in Facebook, or this, how do you do this with Snapchat? Ask them. For a lot of them, this is fun. This is what they do, and they enjoy it. In a non-threatening atmosphere, just sit down and say, hey, can you show me how to use this? They might cringe and think, uh-oh, mom and dad are going to be watching every move I make. But at the same time, you can say, just teach me. I promise I won't stalk you. I promise I won't comment on everything. But if you're going to be on there, I just need to understand how it works. And remember, get those passwords. Remember, the only person who should have their passwords are the parents, the caregivers, the guardians. Whoever you are, be their trusted adult. Have their passwords and talk to them, engage them in this, and it can be a healthy venue. Will you have problems? Sure. Will they make mistakes? Sure. And then you back up and you start over. Use those parent contracts that I've talked about earlier. They're a great, great way to guide your conversation with them, to help them understand, hey, when I say you've got to have it in our bedroom at night for charging, I have a reason for that. I don't want you texting all night, so it's going to charge in my bedroom. It's got to be there at a certain time. So, but if you start this now while they're younger, after a while, that's just the way it's going to be. So I encourage you to just get in there, and if you have any questions, please contact our office. We're there to help.
Well, the information was daunting. I realized all the issues my teenagers would be up against over the coming years, and just knew I needed to be educated.
Husband and I attended a Parenting 101 class together with some other couples, and that was very helpful. A small group, talking with other parents about concerns and things that had happened and how you might handle them or how we might handle them differently.
Parenting social media is just one of about 40 different issues that Operation Parent addresses with parents. And we absolutely love what we do. We're parents ourselves, and we know how busy and hectic life can be. So we're an organization that focuses our time and our energy on that ever-changing teen culture. We've got lots of resources for you, so we hope that you won't just listen to this program, but that you'll go to our website and especially check out our parent handbook. That's how our organization got started. It's a handy little thing to keep in the home. It's updated every year, and it addresses about 40 of the toughest issues that parents may address from elementary to middle to high school. It's an awesome resource that has literally saved lives all across the country. In addition to that, our speaker, Mary Beth, is more than happy to go out into the community with presentations on the topics that you'll find in the Parent Handbook. Besides our website, we are also looking into the development of webinars and web conferencing so that we can take our information and make it available to your group no matter where you are. So be encouraged and know that you are so not alone in this battle to raise a healthy teen. We're working with thousands and thousands of parents all across the country who are doing the exact same thing, and our goal is to rally the troops. It's time that we don't sit on the sidelines or isolate ourselves or be weighed down by shame or guilt because of some bad choices our children may or may not have made. We're adults and we've made some bad choices, and we can't control everything, but we can control what we know and how we use that knowledge, and that's what we're all about. We're happy to come alongside of you. It's a privilege to empower you with this information, and we look forward to you calling us with any question or any way that we might be of service to you. So hang in there. You're doing an awesome job, and you are not alone. I promise you that. We're here. We're a phone call away. Call us anytime. We'll be happy to be of service.